Hi, this is Dave T1963, and I just wanted to make a quick video on my thoughts about single bevel broadheads because it seems like that's the big rage nowadays, especially since the Ranch Fairy started putting out all his popular videos. When it comes to penetration, well, let me just start off. I've been using the Simmons Shark, whether the 165 Land Shark, I've used the Tree Sharks, I've used 190, I don't know if they're the Tiger Sharks or whatever, but I've used several models of the Tree Sharks for many years, and I've always had great success with them. And I've used single bevel broadheads in the past. I've used the Grizzly, I can't remember some of the older models, but we're talking about 20 years ago. Single bevel broadheads are not new. They've been around for a long time. But this year, I decided to go with the Cutthroat 200 grain broadhead. Now, so far this year, I've shot 3 bucks. And deer number 1 was shot on the ground. And it was a hard quartering away shot. And it entered right in front of the hip, went through some guts, through the liver, through 1 lung, and broke 2 ribs going out. Complete pass through. The exit wound was about the same height as the entry wound. Both of them were mid-body. Absolutely perfect penetration. This is the actual broadhead. Actually, this is the broadhead from the second one. But I resharpened that broadhead, and it's in my quiver, and there was no damage whatsoever to that broadhead. So from the perspective of penetration, being able to crack rib bones and stuff like that, can't knock that. Second deer I shot was no big deal. It was a straight broadside shot, went through both lungs, zipped right through. There was no problems with that broadhead. The third buck I shot from a tree stand that was about 18 foot high. The deer was about 10 to 12 yards from the base of my tree, quartering slightly away. I went in rather high, right behind the last rib on the entry side. That went through the liver, went through 1 lung, and then exited out and completely blew out the shoulder bone on the exit side. The deer couldn't even use that leg. Deer wound up going 300 yards. I don't know how that deer lived so long. But both lungs were taken out on that deer. The entry hole was kind of high, like I said, and the exit hole was rather low. It was down, just above the chest line on the bottom. So great penetration. This is the actual broadhead that I shot. I could resharpen this and use this again. So from a standpoint of penetration, breaking bones, that was pretty impressive. It broke the leg joint of that deer. So I was really impressed with that broadhead's performance. Here's what I didn't like. On all 3 of those shots, the blood trail were some of the worst that I've ever been on. Now, the second deer that I shot that was a pass through both lungs, there was an adequate blood trail. I was able to recover that deer. The other 2 deer, I had to get a dog. The first deer, we did not, even using the dog, we did not find 1 drop of blood that came from either the entry or the exit wound. I couldn't even find any blood where the deer coughed up blood. So there was no blood found on that trail at all. And the deer only went 65, 70 yards from the point of impact. I backed out because it happened so quick. It was from the ground that I wasn't 100% sure of the hit. It looked a little far back for me, but that was, like I said, it was hard quartering. So I backed out and decided to get a dog rather than risk losing that deer. That last shot, I have made that shot, I don't know how many times on whitetail deer, and never have I ever passed through the chest cavity and took out both lungs and not been able to find a drop of blood. I actually grid searched that and found the arrow about 30 yards from where I shot him. I was unable to find a single drop of blood. Now, when we got the dog out tracking about 100 yards, we found 2 drops of blood until the dog found the deer 300 yards away. The blood trails were atrocious. That was the reason I stopped using the grizzlies way back when, was because in my experience, while they do penetrate good and while they do an adequate job of cracking bones and stuff like that, I don't think it's that much more than a double bevel. It might be slightly more, but it's not that much more. The blood trails are atrocious with single bevel broadheads in my experience. Yeah, now I know that someone's going to post example here and there and there. I'm just saying, over 40 something years of shooting broadheads into live game animals, in my experience, a double bevel broadhead leaves a better blood trail, especially when you got a little bit of a concave blade, because sometimes it'll rotate and take out more blood vessels. These cutthroats, I mean, I invested quite a bit of money this year in these, and I won't use them again. I absolutely will not use these broadheads again because, like I said, you know, the penetration is okay, but you know what? With these Simmons Sharp, I blow through deer. I've knocked out ribs. I've shot through shoulder bones before. These penetrate more than adequate for my 50 to 60 pound recurves and longbows. Never had a problem with penetration. Double bevels sharpen better, and in my opinion, the edge stays sharp longer. One of the things I noticed about these cutthroats is they dulled really quick in my quiver. And I'm going to try to get up close so you can see this. I don't know if you're going to see this very well. But this broadhead was shot through that deer. It was on the ground for maybe 4 or 5 hours, and then I recovered it. Let me make sure you're able to see this, okay? And it is completely rusted up, and it's dull as can be. On the other hand, this is a Simmons Shark that I sharpened last year, and it's shot through several deer, and the edge is still not rusted, and it's still razor sharp. I pulled all the broadheads, all the cutthroats out of my quiver, and every one of them are dull. They dulled just from the act of putting them in and out of the quiver and hunting. And I'm kind of used to that. You know, I sharpen my broadheads almost after every hunt. Or, you know, maybe every 3 or 4 days that I go out, I just check my broadheads. But so in my opinion, these dull quicker, and they're way harder to sharpen. And they also tend to fragment on the blade a lot, and that's because of the angle. Now, I talked to Innovative Sportsman, I can't remember the gentleman's name, and I started grinding my cutthroats to a 35-degree taper to help with that. But if you use the standard taper on a single bevel broadhead, these edges are extremely vulnerable to breaking off, dulling out quickly. This thing is so dull. You know, everyone keeps talking about get them razor sharp. I don't have any hair left on my arms. I can get broadheads super sharp, okay? Any day you stop me out in the field, ask me to pull one out of my quiver, and we'll see how sharp it is. These things all dull very quickly. I'm not impressed with the cutthroat broadheads. Overall, I'm not that impressed with the single bevel. I know it's all the hype and the rage about penetration, this and that, but I'm going to tell you something. I am seeing so many videos of people making piss poor shot choices in unrecovered deer and using these single bevel with these 70 to 80 pound compounds, and shot selection is far more important than the bevel on your broadhead, okay? And anyone that's preaching otherwise, I don't care if it's your plan F. I don't really care. Anyone that's preaching that a single bevel broadhead is going to correct piss poor shot placement is out of their head. They don't know what they're talking about. The number one most important thing is getting that broadhead in the right location. That's our job. The broadhead's job is then to penetrate and cut blood vessels. So sharpness is important. And like I said, these broadheads were sharpened over a year ago, and they've sat on my counter in that room for over a year, and they're still razor sharp. They're cutting the hair off my hand right now. Okay? So that's just my opinion. I'm sure other people have different experiences and stuff like that. Maybe other people can validate what I'm saying, but the blood trails that I've had with single bevel broadheads just are atrocious compared to a double bevel broadhead. And I don't know why that is. I'm not a scientist. I have no idea why I'm getting it. I know that even with the double bevel, the ones with the I guess this is concave blade, the ones that sweep out, to me, give devastating blood trails. There's only been a couple times on really, really fat deer where the fat actually plugged up the hole and I didn't get as good a blood trail, but I've always, like I said, in 40 something years making a double lung shot, there is never once in that whole time that I was unable to find at least one drop of blood. That last deer I shot was double lunged, a good exit hole, and only 2 drops of blood were found, even using the dog following the exact trail that buck took, looking on the ground. We only found a couple spots of blood. So take this for what it's worth. You know, if you're having good luck with a single bevel, good on you. If someone wants to buy my Cutthroat 200, send me a PM, because they will be going up for sale. I'm going back to the Simmons Shark. In all my hunting that I've done, using I've used 3-blade from the Roger Rothar to the Wenzel Woodsman. I've used Wiki, I've used Magnus, I've used Grizzlies. Gosh, I can't even think of all the different broadheads that I've used. The Simmons Shark, this design it produces so well. They fly good, they penetrate extremely well, they're very heavy metal, they're easy to sharpen. Now, a lot of people have problems with the curved blade, and it does take I use a curved jewel stick to get mine sharp, and then I just drop them on my jeans. But you do have to, you can't use a flat file on these like you can the Zwicky and stuff. But, you know, if you can keep your angle pretty consistent, if you're good at sharpening, a 3-sided rounded jewel stick in blue jeans will get these razor sharp. I'm talking about every bit as sharp as I was able to get these with that Innovative Sportsman kit, you know, that you're using with the the diamond stones. And you know, that's a phenomenal product. I think even a child could be taught to use them and get a very sharp edge on a knife or a broadhead. So that tool is an excellent tool, but it just won't work on these concave, I don't know if it's concave or convex. I'm not sure which way is what. I think these are concave heads, but there's just something about these. If you've never tried a Simmons Shark, I encourage you to give them a shot one year. Like I said, they're tough as nails. I've never, trying to think back, I've never had a Simmons Shark bend while hunting. I've hit a steel pole and had the tip curl. I've never had one bend while hunting. I've never had a blade break or chip or anything like that unless I've hit a rock or something, and then there's a little gouge and stuff. But every one of my Simmons Sharks that I've ever bought are either practice heads that I'm shooting constantly into the sand, or they're still huntable. Every one of them. I don't have any. Now, I've lost some where, you know, the arrows broke and I was never able to recover the broadhead. But every broadhead that I've ever shot through an animal or shot and missed at an animal or whatever is still huntable. Every single one of them. So these are great heads. And I'm going back to them. Anyway, I hope you find this. I'm not bashing the Cutthroat. You know, I think whoever's making these are putting a lot of time and effort. Very heavy steel. To me, they don't sharpen very well. They dull too easy, and I find that consistent with all single bevel steel. I think it's the way they're sharpened or whatever. They just seem to dull quicker, in my opinion. And like I said, the number one reason is if you can't find blood after you shoot through an animal and it doesn't fall in sight, if you can't find blood to do the blood trailing, I don't care what kind of penetration you got, you're kind of, it's just not a good situation. Blood trailing is how we find the majority of our animals when we're archery hunting. So the very fact that going back several years back using the grizzlies, I had the exact same experience with them. They zipped through animals very cleanly. They penetrated well. Crappy blood trails. Don't have that problem with the double bevels. So I'm going back to the Simmons Sharp, Dave T1963 out.